So, Senator, I guess I'll first start off and say, can you share with us what went into your decision not to run again?
Well, first, let me say it's been such an honor and a blessing to represent Michigan, both the county, state, and federal level. And born and raised here my whole life, I see everything through the lens of Michigan. And so at this point in time, there's really two things that I've been thinking about. I think it's a good time to pass the torch to the next generation. We have wonderful leaders in Michigan, and I've always felt it's important to be part of opening those doors, creating opportunities, and passing the torch. And for me personally, my mom is 96, and I have 5 wonderful grandchildren. And certainly for mom, who's been my biggest supporter, it's important for me to have the flexibility while doing my job the next 2 years, not to have the rigors of a campaign, but to be able to be there for her when she needs me.
Before we talk about what could be next and what that next leadership looks like, I want to take a look at really what your legacy has been and the things that you have fought for on behalf of Michiganders. For many people, Republican or Democrat, they can't remember a time that Debbie Stabenow wasn't representing them in some way, shape, or form. Talk to me a little bit about some of the things that have really impacted you in terms of causes when we look at Great Lakes issues, when we talk about agriculture, the Farm Bill, the work you've done with mental health, and also medical treatment for seniors.
Well, for me, it's always about putting people first. And I grew up in a family where if I complained, my mom said, well, what can you do to make things better? And so that's been part of my DNA. Obviously, we have an economy that makes things and grows things. And so I'm proud to be a leader and have been a leader on advanced manufacturing and new vehicles, on agriculture and bringing our type of agriculture into the Farm Bill. We didn't have fruits and vegetables and our type of agriculture even in the Farm Bill as a title until I was able to do that. Mental health, transforming mental health to be a part of healthcare, not something separate, is a very important thing for me, as well as other healthcare. And of course, the Great Lakes. The very first bill that I introduced in the United States Senate was a bill to ban oil and gas drilling in the Great Lakes. It was at a time when former Governor Engler was thinking about doing that, and I couldn't imagine a worse idea. So, I've always been fighting for the Great Lakes.
Can you give me a specific story of your time in the Senate where you sat back one day and everyone left your office and you said, yes, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing?
Well, there have been many, but I do have to say, having worked for 10 years with my Republican colleague, Roy Blunt, who just retired, on transforming community mental health services, as part of the gun bill we passed last summer, we finally took quality services funded like healthcare nationwide. The funding to permanently do this is nationwide, as well as across Michigan. And that was a moment when I said, this really matters. Millions of people are going to get the quality care they need when they need it. And hopefully it will transform their lives as well.
You have been a trailblazer for women in politics. Describe, I guess, the road or the path, how hard it has been for you. And then when you can kind of look behind and see the people who are following.
Well, I started at 24. I was a graduate student at Michigan State and got involved in an effort to save the local nursing home, the Ingham County Medical Care Facility. It was the only one that took Medicaid for low-income seniors at the time, and it was really important to me. And we saved the nursing home, and then I was urged to run for office, and one thing led to another. But there were not many doors open. I felt like I had to bust down the door, and for me, it was important to keep the door open, because it's not, in the early days, it was like you could have one woman, there could be one, but that's all. And so power and the ability to contribute comes from number 2, number 3, number 4. And so I hope I have been able to bust open a lot of doors and keep them open. We certainly see that. It's very exciting in Michigan. When I came into the state house, there were 8 women in the state Senate, 8 in the House, none in the Senate, none statewide. And now look at what we have from our great governor and all the leadership in Michigan. So I hope that I've been able to play a part in that.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy. I see that you were one of the only women who had a baby in the house at the time.
Well, I was the first woman. I was told I had my son when I was a county commissioner. I was told I was the first woman in Michigan, but we never fact checked that. So, but I do know I was with my daughter, the first woman to have a baby in the state legislature. I think we did the first baby shower. It was so funny because all the guys didn't know what to give me. So I have all these stuffed animals that everybody gave me. So it was a wonderful time. I remember a colleague saying when I was pregnant on the floor that when I spoke, he had to remember I was pregnant. And I said, well, pregnancy doesn't affect the brain. And so, I could continue to do my work. So a lot of fun stories, but now I think young families are much more integrated into our public service. And I think this is great.
In leaving the Senate, what do you worry about?
Well, in my next 2 years, I want to make sure I'm part of showing people that we can govern, we can get things done across the aisle, and that our democracy is worth protecting and saving, because I do worry about the state of things. And in very real sense, January 6th was about a violent attack on our democracy, and the social media, hate speak, racism, bigotry, people trying to divide us is very dangerous. I will say that the last election for us was an inspiration to me because people came out, young people came out, got engaged anyway, and wanted to be a part of making sure that our great state and country continues to be strong. It's going to take that because there's a lot of forces out there, both outside our country as well as in our country right now. And so we've got to continue to work together and understand really the freedoms and the great things about being in America, in our democracy.
And I think to your point of showing people how to govern and that we can govern successfully and work together. When you think about the clout that you have in the U.S. Senate, I mean, your announcement, I think, takes the breath away of Republicans and Democrats. And what does that mean for Michigan in losing, a legislator like yourself?
Well, I'm honored to have been, worked hard and have that hard work recognized by now being the number 3 in leadership in the Democratic caucus and the majority in the state Senate. I take that very seriously. I am in a senior position, not just chairing the Agriculture Committee, but on the Finance Committee and in many other ways, which I take seriously. But there's a time and place, again, to pass the torch to the next generation. And so we certainly saw with my dear friend John Dingell, and the clout he had, and then and certainly Senator Levin and the clout that he had, and for now me being in a position to certainly, I understand the clout that I have, and I'm going to continue to use it for the next 2 years for Michigan, certainly, and beyond. But there just comes a moment where you need to support the next generation of leadership. And I feel that it's the right thing for me to do.
Let's talk about the next generation of leadership and the conversations that I'm sure that are happening behind closed doors right now. We've heard a lot of names being thrown out that could possibly run for this Senate seat in the state of Michigan, from Pete Buttigieg, Alyssa Slotkin. Can you share with us any of the conversations that you're having, or who the next generation of leadership is that you believe can step up to the plate here in Michigan?
Well, I'm beginning to have conversations. I know I will have many more conversations with great friends of mine, who will take a look at this. So I'll wait and see how all of that develops. I am confident we're going to be able to keep Michigan blue. I think the folks will have to make a lot of hard decisions, look at things. There's a lot of different kinds of opportunities coming forward. Certainly my seat in 24, but the open seats because of term limits for governor, and the rest of the top of the ticket coming forward 2 years later. So there's a lot of different opportunities that people need to assess. And I look forward to being involved in those conversations.
Senator Stabenow, how would you describe what your leadership style has been?
I want to get things done. Over and over again, I've been willing to give up my name as the first name on a bill to get something done. I'll work with anybody to get something done. I think it's the most important thing is to look for common ground, not agreeing with everybody on everything. My strategy has always been to find one thing that you can agree with someone on and be able to get it done. And then you go find one thing with someone else where you can get it done. And so if you do that step by step by step, you listen, you don't judge people, you try to find common ground while at the same time standing up for your principles. I mean, when I stand up when we negotiate a farm bill, and Republicans know I'm not going to cut food assistance, that I'm going to make sure that Michigan fruits and vegetable growers and that our needs are met. And so I stand up for us, but at the same time, I listen to the needs of other people. And if you can weave that together, that's how you're successful.
What will you miss most about public service in the U.S. Senate?
Well, I love Michigan. I love every part of Michigan. I love visiting. I love campaigning all over Michigan, and of course, and will still live the rest of my life in Michigan. But, I think it's the people I work with. It's my colleagues. It's my staff who are the most incredible people in the world. They let folks know every day if someone calls our office and needs help, that we're going to help them individually bust through the bureaucracy and get things done for them. I love the communities, the people that, our friends and supporters all around Michigan. So it's, I think all of it is important to me.
Okay. So what's the first place you're going to take a vacation in 2 years?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't gotten that far yet. Yeah, I haven't gotten that far. I mean, truthfully, for me, it's someplace on one of the Great Lakes. People talk about going other places. I tell them they have no idea how beautiful it is in Michigan. So, my first choice is always to be somewhere in Michigan.
So is this a big sigh of relief for you that this?
And this is
got it.
If this can be our last question, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So, yeah. I mean, I certainly wrestled with it. It's a big decision and impacts a lot of people. And so it's a relief. I feel very confident that this is the right thing for me and for my family. And now I'm just moving ahead to plan how these next 2 years, how we get a 5-year farm bill done, how do we move forward in Michigan. I've got a lot more to do.
All right, Senator Stabenow, thanks so much for joining me. Best of luck to you, and we will talk to you soon.